Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Joseph Lopez. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Prime Minister to chair a special meeting of the Bureau of CARICOM heads of government. This country continues to uphold standards in its fight against violence towards women. And TNT is among many countries to benefit from the InterAmerican Development Bank's private sector mission. Welcome in our top story. Prime Minister the Honorable Kamla Bissessar says this country continues to uphold standards in its fight against violence towards women. This was the focus of a message in commemoration of International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, recognized today, November 25th.
Continuously review and revise legislation pertaining to the protection of women and girls. The assurance comes from Prime Minister Kamla Bissessar as she commemorated International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, recognized globally on November 25th. In her message, the Prime Minister noted that the Domestic Violence Act is receiving the attention of government as they seek to ensure that every woman and girl within our nation enjoys her fundamental human right to live free from violence. Proof of this commitment, she says, is found in government securing the rights and adequate representation of women in the recently concluded consultations on local government reform. She says during the process, citizens were asked to consider, among other reforms, the election or appointment of 3 special representatives in each local region, male and female youth representatives, and a representative for women and children. She underscored that violence against women is unconscionable and must be stopped, whether it unfolds internationally or locally. The Prime Minister described international statistics of violence against women as alarming, as it's estimated that 1 in 3 women will be subject to violence in her lifetime, while 1 in 3 girls will be married as a child bride before the age of 18. She says trafficking continues to ensnare millions of girls in modern-day slavery, and rape has become a tactic in warfare. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister Persad highlighted the records of the Crime and Problem Analysis Branch of the TT Police Service for 2012, showing that there were 2,517 reported female victims of violent crimes in Trinidad and Tobago. And these crimes included murder, sexual offenses, woundings, and shootings. She notes that this statistic remains disturbing, as there are many women who continue to remain silent, afraid of the consequences of revealing the truth or believing that they themselves are the cause of the violence. Mrs. Persad, being the first female Prime Minister in Trinidad and Tobago, says as a parliamentarian and as a woman, she calls on her fellow world leaders and all persons of influence locally and internationally to take action to end all forms of violence against women and girls. The Prime Minister adds that we all have a responsibility to socialize our boys and men, to treat girls and women as equals with dignity and respect. She challenged each citizen of Trinidad and Tobago to unceasingly work not only to protect and improve the lives of women and girls with whom you are in contact, but also to engage boys and men as partners in gender equality and respectful relationships. Her comments are said to be put to work under the Ministry of Gender, Youth and Child Development, which is engaged in a year-long campaign which focuses on the varied roles, issues and concerns related to women. The ministry joins the international community in 16 days of activism to raise awareness of the fight to end violence against women and girls. She also notes that Trinidad and Tobago holds an admirable track record and an enviable reputation internationally with regard to promoting the rights of women and girls, and as a nation we should not allow senseless violence targeting our women to tarnish this reputation. In 2008, the United Nations launched its Unite to End Violence Against Women campaign in response to this global challenge. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon says in his message for the World Observation Day, violence against women and girls has no place in society and impunity for perpetrators must no longer be tolerated. On this International Day, he urged all governments, civil society, the corporate sector, individuals to take responsibility for eradicating violence against women and girls. Kimberly Ram Calawan, News 4.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister will on Tuesday chair a special meeting of the Bureau of CARICOM, heads of government here in Trinidad. The meeting is to examine the controversial ruling which threatens the citizenship of thousands of Dominicans.
A media release from the Diplomatic Centre St. Anne's states that the Honourable Prime Minister Kamla Bissessar will chair the special CARICOM meeting from 10:30 Tuesday morning. Those expected at the meeting are the President of Haiti, Michel Martelly, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, and CARICOM Secretary General Erlin O'Rourke. On the 23rd of September 2013, the Constitutional Court of the Dominican Republic handed down judgment TC-0168 on nationality. The ruling, which cannot be appealed, stems from the decision on the matter of Ms. Juliana de Pierre, a Dominican citizen of Haitian descent who was denied her birth certificate by the Central Electoral Office of the Dominican Republic. The court ruled that Ms. de Pierre was not entitled to Dominican citizenship, having been born in the Dominican Republic on April 1, 1984, to Haitian parents on the grounds that she had been wrongly registered as Dominican at her birth. The court found that she did not meet the requirements to be registered as Dominican. The ruling further stated that its interpretation must be applied retroactively, stripping her of Dominican nationality. The court also instructed the Dominican authorities to conduct an audit of birth records from June 21, 1929 to the present in order to identify similar cases and strip those persons of Dominican nationality. The controversial ruling has been met with great uproar and outcry, with calls for CARICOM to forcefully declare its position to the ruling. A communique has since been issued in mid-October registering the CARICOM community's concern with the ruling, noting with regret that the court ruling goes against pronouncements of the InterAmerican Commission on Human Rights and calling on the Dominican Republic to adopt measures to protect the human rights and interest of those made vulnerable by this ruling and its grievous effects. Felicia Wilson-Maughan, News 4.
Senator Vincent Barth, Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment, is encouraging investors to see Trinidad and Tobago as the gateway to the Americas. He makes this comment as he delivers the keynote address at the 37th Annual Conference on the Caribbean and Central America held in Washington, D.C.
The 37th Annual Conference on the Caribbean and Central America, hosted by the Organization of American States and U.S. Chamber of Commerce in Washington, D.C., has been themed Advancing a Shared Agenda. Delivering the closing keynote address, Trade Minister Vincent Barth shopped Trinidad and Tobago to all the business and government officials present, highlighting the country's skilled workforce, low unemployment rate, low energy costs, strong telecommunications system, competitive cost structure, and high per capita income. He argues these all combine to make Trinidad and Tobago an ideal location for investors and business persons. Minister Barth highlights there is no better time than now for investors to invest in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly if they are interested in investing in industries such as tourism, financial services, agro-processing, information and communications technology, maritime and the creative industries. He says the government has earmarked these sectors for heavy and aggressive expansion. The Trade Minister reminds the world that Trinidad and Tobago has jumped 31 spots in 3 years in the World Bank's Doing Business report, which ranks countries on the ease of doing business in the country. Trinidad and Tobago is currently ranked 66th out of 189 countries, and Minister Barth says the government has committed to getting the country into the top 10. He adds that the nation is well on its way to this target, with legislation in place to allow for business to be set up in Trinidad and Tobago in only 3 days. In addition, a ministerial committee with 6 government ministers has been formed to ensure that more is done to improve the ease of doing business in Trinidad and Tobago. Gregory McBurney, News 4.
More news after the break. Welcome back. Trinidad and Tobago is among a number of countries to benefit from the InterAmerican Development Bank's private sector mission. With the IDB's intervention in a magnified way, Caribbean residents are to benefit from a raised standard of living and greater opportunities within their country.
The Inter-American Development Bank's two-day private sector mission in Trinidad and Tobago came to an end on Friday with a press conference which detailed the high points of the mission. The high-level team from the IDB met with the energy sector, the financial sector, several local chambers of commerce and private sector institutions.
The whole purpose of the visit was to look at how the IDB, first of all, can enhance the capabilities of the financial sector here in Trinidad and Tobago to facilitate more private sector investment and growth. And secondly, to work directly with the private sector to have a sense of what their needs might be so that they may be more responsive to the needs of the private sector for financing to support their growth, their export capability, and their development.
The Honourable Minister said he was happy that the IDB chose Trinidad and Tobago as their country to visit with a team of executive directors and managers of the bank.
I think it was clear from our point of view that the IDB sees Trinidad and Tobago as important, not only in terms of its own development, but in terms of the development and growth and sustainability of the Caribbean. And they see the private sector as critical for support for development outside of the support that it already gives to the government in terms of loans and grants for policy and other forms of development driven by government.
These points were reinforced by General Manager of the Caribbean Country Department of the IDB, who answered the question, why Trinidad and Tobago?
Trinidad and Tobago has resilience. The economy of Trinidad and Tobago has resilience that's unique. The role of Trinidad and Tobago in CARICOM, once again, unique. The opportunities in the business sector here are immense. That's why we came here.
He explained that many countries in the Caribbean region are seeing living standards falling and the prospects looking forward are bleak. He maintained that the IDB is a development bank and exists to tackle such situations.
As you know, the World Trade Organization has documented that our region, the deficit in this region, the infrastructure deficit for export, which is, given the kind of economies we have, export is our lifeline. We have the largest deficit in the world. Now, if there's an opportunity for the private sector to do some of the heavy lifting in providing that infrastructure, and if those opportunities are not being taken advantage of, well, that's what this is all about. So that's the big picture. The big picture is how does the IDB play a transformational role in working with governments, working with the private sector to make that happen.
Speaking to News 4 recently, IDB country representative Michelle Cross-Fenty said the multilateral bank views its relationship with this country as being very important. On Friday, she reiterated this with greater detail.
The IDB has been a development partner of Trinidad and Tobago on the sovereign side for 46 years. And the relationship is based on transparency, integrity, and accountability. We have a private side of the arm, a private arm of the bank, and what we would like to do is really explore synergies so that the government and the private sector can have a better understanding of the products and services that we have in the bank that can facilitate growth and trade in Trinidad and Tobago.
Ms. Cross-Fenty said what the IDB was walking away with was a better understanding of the needs of the private sector and the products and services that the IDB could possibly build to meet those needs.
Our job now is to go back, gather the information that we've been exposed to, and really come up with intelligent designs for solving problems. And there are many sectors of the economy. There are a number of the clusters that we've discussed with the government that need attention, and our job will be to get the focus on those issues.
The results of the private sector mission are expected to be seen in several months' time, as it is an entire process which would entail changing the business model of the bank in a way that would better engage the private sector. Several similar missions are to be undertaken in other member states within the region. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Rainy weather has temporarily disrupted works to the Calcutta Bridge, which is currently under construction at Balmain, Couva. On Monday, Dr. Suraj Rambajan, Minister of Works and Infrastructure, and his ministry team visited the construction site to get a first-hand look at the pure project.
Despite the rains, the Honorable Dr. Suraj Rambajan, Minister of Works and Infrastructure, says he's optimistic that the Calcutta Bridge at Balmain, Couva South would be completed by its projected date, March 21st, 2014. On Monday, the minister visited the site, urging contractors to stay within their stipulated time frame. But even as the contractors noted the weather disruption, the minister called for expediency, stating that any delay would be a further inconvenience to the residents of the area.
Well, the good news is that Trinidad will work through value engineering to make sure that the price is within what we have budgeted for the bridge. And that's what we are doing on all our jobs, avoiding cost overruns altogether. And I think with some value engineering we can do it. We have just done it in another bridge in Figaro Street in Diego Martin, I believe it is, and we saved $300,000 on that bridge from the original estimate. So I think it can be done if we pursue value engineering.
The Honorable Rudy Indar Singh, Minister in the Ministry of Local Government, said he invited his colleague Dr. Rambajan after residents of the area noted their concern with the time the project was taking to be completed.
I simply invited Minister Rambajan based on the number of complaints that I've been getting from constituents who live on either side of the bridge, the Balmain and the Calcutta area, concerned about the timeline for the completion of the bridge. And taking into consideration the time schedule that was given initially, I too myself, as a member of Parliament and part of this government, is concerned about the way contractors are operating, value for money, and ensuring that projects are completed within budget and within the stipulated time frame in relation to fulfilling our commitments to constituents.
Felicia Wilson-Moore, News 4.
Sport is next after the break. Welcome back. Football features in our News 4 Sportscast. Never in the history of the TT Pro League Toyota Classic Knockout Tournament has the Super League team made it all the way to the final. Well, there was a chance to create history in this weekend's semi-finals, which featured two Super League teams against Pro League outfits. Wayne Cunningham was at the Atto Bolden Stadium, and he has the highlights.
Defending Pro League champions, the Defence Force met National Super League leaders Club Sando in the semi-final of the Toyota Classic on Saturday at the Atto Bolden Stadium in Couva. The Interleague tournament has always been dominated by the Pro League clubs and never saw a finalist coming from the Super League ranks. Club Sando changed that as they went about completing a fine 3-2 win, starting with an opening goal in the 14th minute by Karen Smith. Anthony Paris doubled that lead in the 72nd. But the military came battling back and leveled the score with goals from Joan Baltazar and Devon Jostling. Just as it seemed that it was headed to the penalty shootout, Sando grabbed the win. Devon Morris left all alone in the center of the penalty area, and he buries the header, much to the delight of the Sando faithful, as they made history as the first Super League team to reach the final of the Classic. Guayo United were hoping to join their Super League counterparts when they took on another Pro League powerhouse. W Connection Guaya had goalkeeper Kevon Saunders to thank as he kept hope alive in the first half. 0-0 the score after the first 45. The heroics of Saunders were not enough to save the Eastern County side in the second half as the Savanetta boys upped their game. National midfielder Jovan Jones showing his class and makes it 1-0 in the 51st minute. Jones then showed his pace in the 64th as he outran the Guaya defense and centers to Hashim Arcia, who makes it 2-0. Arcia meeting the cross well to beat Saunders. 10 minutes later, it was another piece of sublime skill which was needed to beat the Guaya keeper and send Connection into the finals. Neil Benjamin Jr. rounding the keeper for the 3-0 score. W Connection versus Club Sando in the final of the Toyota Classic on Saturday at 8 p.m. at the Bolden Stadium in Couva. Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
Thank you, Wayne Cunningham. News 4 continues after this. Welcome back. The Ministry of the People and Social Development will soon embark on creating a new policy for the payment of pensions. Minister Glenn Ramadasing disclosed the plans during the launch of the Gasparilla Jamet's Senior Citizens Home.
A new policy for the payment of pensions is said to be in the making. Minister of Social Development and the People, Dr. Glenn Ramadasing, disclosed that soon citizens who have reached 64 and a half years would be able to access a pension. He was speaking at the launch of the new Senior Citizen Centre to be housed on a compound of the Gasparilla Jamat.
At 64 and a half years old, we will carry the pensioner through a preliminary assessment so that by the time they reach their 65th birthday, they could probably, while they're blowing out their birthday cake, sign their pension form one time. And the next month they can have their pension.
The Gasparilla Jamat will receive monetary assistance to get the Senior Citizen Centre started. The minister unveiled the plans for the centre.
What does this mean for you? Today, you get $50,000 for the launch of your Senior Citizen Centre. You will receive at the Gasparilla Mosque $330,400 a year to operate this centre. That is what it means for you, the people of Gasparilla and surrounding areas. And you will receive $70,000, a one-off grant for the startup capital for the purchase of equipment and fixtures. That is $450,000 from the Division of Aging, Ministry of the People, to the people of Gasparilla.
Minister of the State in the Ministry of Gender, Youth Affairs and Child Development, Razia Ahmed, added that while the mosque celebrates its 70th anniversary, it also signifies growth of a community from strength to strength. She urged members, especially the women in the mosque, to develop the human capital by reaching out to those in need within the community through the life skills training program offered at the centre.
This is a program that we would like you to spread in your community through your Jamaat, not necessarily restricted to the Muslim community, but all those with whom you interact on a daily basis, who you know might be in need and who you feel would be willing to come in and have some vocational and skills training. And our outreach program allows our trainers to come into your community so that the Women in Harmony program could spread throughout the country. And it's important for our Muslim community in particular to take advantage of these opportunities so that our single heads of households do not fall into the poverty trap.
For residents living in the Tabaki district, MP for the area and Minister of Works Dr. Surjratan Rambachan highlighted some of the many programs available that can benefit the social needs of citizens living in the district.
In this area of Tabakit and Gasparilla. This is one of several such projects that has either been initiative or has in fact started. Indeed, we are working right now with the Trinity Presbyterian Church in developing a room there for their Sunday school. In Whiteland, we have just built the Whiteland Empowerment Center, which is a center where we have young people undergoing different kinds of sensitivity training. We have discovered in that area that there are many young mothers who are HIV positive and also young men who suffer from the same disease. And one of the programs we have just finished running there is about human sexuality and dealing with your own hygiene and health.
The Gas Road Jamaat Senior Citizen Center is open to all residents in the area and is said to be the 11th launch by the ministry. Kimberam Calawan, News 4.
And that was the launch of the Senior Citizens Jamaat's home in Gasparilla. And that story brings us to the end of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communication. I'm Joseph Lopez. Thank you for watching.